has been waiting for this all morning. Hold on one second. Close the bathroom door so you don't get any funny ideas while the show is happening. Hold on. And then, oh gosh, he was just up in my lap, all doing just like I'm trying to get ready. I'm trying to get the show started and get some coffee. Get my I'm off kilter. And now you want down so you can run around and play with stuff. Hi, say hi, Chip. Say good morning, Mr. Purr. You purring, are you? No. How are you this fine day? Happy Friday. Chip is chilling in his own way. Okay, I'm sorry. Here, you can lay down. There you go. Now you're fine. He just wants to lay long ways on my lap. And now you want to go someplace. Where are you going? No, no, we're not just doing chew wires right now. Out. Thank you. He was being so cute. He's like following me around. He wants to jump up in my lap. And yeah, I've been carrying him around all morning, so I got cat hair all over me. And he's like following me into the room, and he's like, "You doing your show? You doing your show? You doing your show? Is it time for your show? Guys, hit your lap while you do your show." It's super cute. and then, of course, as soon as you guys show up, he's like, "Watch what I can do!" Run all over the place, tear the place to shreds. Good morning, happy Friday, happy morning show to you. We're just gathering in here. We're hanging out, and boy, what a strange Friday it is. This is here, I'll just show you in the trends that came up right here. This is the first one that came up. Russia doesn't rule out Latin American deployment after unsuccessful NATO talks. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. See, this is Russia's big plan. They're with their economy that is smaller than Canada, Italy, and California's, going to stretch what military they have all the way into Latin America. China, which is the second largest economy in the world, allegedly, has spread itself pretty thin with the Belt Road Initiative, and it is biting them in the ass in a lot of places. Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Kazakhstan right now, which is, boy, have I been digging into that topic lately. Oh, man. Who knew? Fascinating stuff. But you're telling me that imagine if the United States said, well, even with the size of our military, the way it is, well, we had to leave Afghanistan, but we're going to deploy our military in 5 different countries in the Middle East. Everybody'd go, what? Where's that money coming from? What are you talking about? Why? It's you think it's just going to be dangerous because the other countries don't like it? Or not to mention the locals? Right? Enough chips. That's cute. Instead of chips, enough, I see. Is Russia trying to push oil prices up? Of course they are. Yes. But it's not ultimately going to work because the United States has got a strategy. And by the way, this supersedes presidents. We've had an oil and gas efficiency plan to divest ourselves from the Middle East for the better part of 2 decades. Since 9/11, essentially, there was this big, we don't need to be doing this for oil anymore. And the reason we're in trouble in these areas is because we keep going in and we need oil from them, yada, yada. And even though that's only about 30% of the story, it's still enough to make a difference. You take out that 30%, it's hard to motivate us to go, do that kind of adventurism and that kind of military expansion when only 70% of the reasons make sense. And you're like, then it's like, will it work? And all that kind of stuff weighs on it. And then you're flipping a coin. Whereas when it was 30% in our economy, if you look at how inflation is affected by gas prices, for example, you can see how other countries have a manipulation point on our system and can basically draft it whichever way they want. They can create artificially low gas prices when the person is in office that is favorable to what they want, and they can jack them up when the person is pissing them off. Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, anyone? Right. So, but this is even, well, let's dive into this because this just popped up. Russia on Thursday stated security talks with the United States and NATO in response to the buildup of Russian troops near Ukraine was unsuccessful. Well, yeah, because you're asking for insanity. They're asking that NATO rescind all of its eastward expansion, and write up a document, which they gave them a draft copy of. That we'll write it for you. You guys just sign it. That we're going to rescind our offer to Ukraine in 2008 to join NATO. No. And we're sending so much shit there right now, it's ridiculous. The bleak assessment came as Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov spoke of the possibility of military deployment to Latin America if the U.S. and its allies don't curtail their military access on Russia's doorstep. According to the AP, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan dismissed Ryabkov's comments as bluster in the public commentary. You think? And said the U.S. is ready to continue with diplomacy to advance stability across the region. Russia describes security talks as unsuccessful as Poland warns of war. Russia said talks with the U.S. and NATO failed it. And by the way, welcome to the last flailing. Because if they don't act on this, and they don't necessarily have the materials to do it, there are 44 million people in Ukraine. There's 100,000 troops built up at the border. Do you think Russia's going to seize and hold a country of 44 million democracy-loving people who take a certain amount of their freedoms for granted and are enjoying not being under, Russian control and gangster, oligarchy? 44 million people. Russia's military couldn't take California. I'm not kidding. You think Russia will no longer be major bust to space after all these space companies are coming online? Yes, that's the other thing. We are and have been in a policy. The United States has been in a policy for the last 15 years, in many ways since the beginning of the Obama administration. The subtle dual track, and the reason why everybody was saying, Obama doesn't meet with anybody in Europe. He didn't really have a relationship with Europe. And they decried that as a failure of his diplomatic outreach to allies. He was very supportive of allies. He would go to summits, but there was no kind of constant on the phone. It's debatable, percentage-wise, how much lower he was. But the content of those calls, it has gone down for the United States in the last 20 years. And Trump, in some ways, capitalized on that, awareness, because the RNC was telling him, is that we're basically hands off. We're looking at Europe as a trade partnership, and to protect us, have a protection group in NATO against Russian expansion, because as they get more desperate, Russia doesn't innovate. They extort. That's it. Because they're, they have the problem, the torturous problem of being oil rich. So they don't really need to do anything else. And they've only had the space program and their nuclear program because it's left over from the Cold War. U.S. hasn't determined Russia's decided on military path forward, said Sullivan. That's because neither have they. Russia's in a desperate situation. Can I just, we'll turn this into like a morning geography lesson. Hang on here a second. Let me show you, how all this story is, let's see, map. Hold on, I'm in the wrong one. There you go. There you go. Here's a map of Kazakhstan. And then, here we go. Let me drag this down, and I'm going to pull this off here. Yeah. And then I'm going to open it up. Quit. And I'm going to open. I don't want to open it separately. I want to bring this down here. There you go. And then I'm going to open it up. There we go. And then we can. I just got to make that. I got to shrink this down a little bit. Let me show you something. You know, Russia's problems in Kazakhstan right now. Russia's just sent. Here, I'm going to arrange this a little better so you guys can get a little. We'll do a little geography today. Okay. So, yeah, is that pretty good? Yeah, I'll shrink it down a touch so you can see that there's Afghanistan down here on the bottom. Okay, now, look at Kazakhstan's border with Russia. Look at Ukraine's border with Russia. Now, Ukraine's border with Russia is important, and it's big, and it's close to Moscow. Here's Moscow up here. See how close the Ukrainian border is? And this is like old-time war thinking that, oh shit, they're going to march right into our capital. As if that's how shit works anymore. As if all of this doesn't have more to do with taking out like stations of where they have their, you know, their internet functioning and stuff through EMPs and yada yada. I mean, like where we're getting with this is just like silly. We're not going to seize Moscow. Nobody is. Nobody wants to. This is a bunch of macho bullshit. Here's the problem they have. Ukraine's already turned. Ukraine is already favorable to the West, and they're going to stay that way. And Belarus, they're you know, back and forth trying to stabilize this and keep it friendly to Russia too. Okay, so headache, migraine. Okay, right over here, the Belarus Ukrainian area. Belarus, you'll know famously that John Wick is from Belarus. Just so you know. And they owe him a debt of something, and that he can fly through there anytime he wants. as a Belaruska influenceless or whatever. All right. Yes. MJ, we'll get into that. We'll get into the natural gas shit. Okay. So, Russia, where they have a lot of their, like, where the pipelines will go through, they run this thing over here, and then it's over here into this area. Okay. Imagine, if you will, having what's effectively in your mind or the illusion of a stable Western democracy. That's what Russia has the illusion of. I mean, nobody buys it, but they elect their leaders. They have a thing. They're largely a Christian Orthodox country, yada yada. Like, all on paper, there's all this stuff that makes them, if they wanted to tomorrow, they could flip a switch and just be a giant successful European country. No fucking around. They have so many resources, it's gigantic. It is only that they are run by authoritarian assholes and morons. The Russian people are very resilient, could be very smart if you ever just turned them loose. But, 2 steps forward, 10 steps back, here they are, right? Now look at the size of the Kazakhstan fucking border. Kazakhstan, for years, has had a Russia-allied leader, and he got, like 2 years ago, basically got driven out of power by the Kazakhstani people. And what he did was he fell back and made himself the head of the military, essentially, the chairman of the Security Council for his own government, right? He still runs the place through the puppet dude that he put in place. And that guy was super friendly with China. See this other gigantic fucking border? And there's all this other stuff going on. And this is the disputed region that China and Russia are fighting over right now, where they're beating the snot out of each other. This is India has laid claim to this. China has laid claim to this. And this is the disputed territories, and they're just fighting over waterways. See this little blue line? That's what it's all about. That little blue line. Welcome to Water Wars. So, Kazakhstan, look how fucking big this is, all right? The reason they sent paratroopers in to quell the protests is because Kazakhstan has the potential to become Ukraine on fucking steroids. Because even if they're we play footsie with the Russians, but we want our own sovereignty, if that takes hold, and it has in the public largely, it just hasn't caught hold in the leadership because Russia's had a stranglehold on it for a long time, they're fucked. I mean, NATO is no longer a problem if Kazakhstan itself starts eyeing Moscow. You get a strongman leader in here, there's an argument because of the oil wealth of Kazakhstan that, but for all the military adventurism of Russia, Kazakhstan's every bit the country Russia is. I mean, like, hold on. I don't. It might be a question of population. It's always fun spelling Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan GDP. Let's look at GDP for Kazakhstan. Okay, so Kazakhstan's GDP is estimated $169.8 billion. Bigger than Belarus and Uzbekistan. Russia's significantly higher than that, largely because of their control over the industries, not because of the resourcefulness, because they take stuff out of there too. So let's see, what's the Russia GDP? Here you go, 1.4 trillion. So that's what puts them on the map. Here's Germany is 3.8, France is 2.6, Russia is 1.48. You want to see something funny? You want to see something really funny? I mean, for fuck's sake. Our military budget is their entire GDP is half of their GDP is our military budget. We have a $756 billion military by itself. Russia's military budget is like, I want to say, let's see, $2 billion. Now here it is. It's current U.S. is 61. So there, I was being a dick. $61 billion. And that's a shit ton of money when your entire GDP is $1.4 trillion. Everything sold, bought, consumed, and contained in Russia in a year. Could Kazakhstan claim Ukraine? No. Is this because of the land, the land break? They'd have to seize. Kazakhstan and Ukraine could team up and take this area. That would be fucked up. If the Ukrainians just said, we're going to team up with the Kazakhs and we're just going to claim this area as, free, Kazukrania, which totally could fucking happen. And we'll free the Georgians to do whatever they want. But here's what you need to know. There are, let's see, how many Uyghurs? Let's see. Here's, how that, God damn it, how Trump is always talking about, this is fun, actually. I enjoy showing you guys this stuff because I don't think anybody bothers with this. Okay, Uyghurs in Kazakhstan, here we go. See if they. Yeah. Uyghurs minority, Turkic ethnic group. Yeah. Okay. So Uyghurs, Kazakhstani Uyghurs, the Muslims that are being exterminated in China. Among those Uyghurs, There's one, let's see, they're 1.2, sorry, 1.4, here you go. They're 1.4% of the population of Kazakhstan in the 2009 census. The ethnic Uyghurs, okay? Guess where they all live? Guess where the ethnic Uyghurs in Kazakhstan all live? Welcome to the world of headaches. This shit has nothing to do with the United States, and everything that like, you know, navel-gazing anti-American assholes on the far right and left, the far left and far right, where they horseshoe over each other and just like, hey, we can tag team shitting on America as the cause of all the problems in the world, and if we just turn America into a gated community, all the world's problems would naturally heal themselves, because if it wasn't for us starting all this shit, it would just kind of, everybody go back to sort of like being Native American tribes in the 1600s. Like, they just all live in peace and smoke weed together, which is just friggin' ridiculous. And Xinjiang, which is this area over here, is where the camps are, where they are, killing and sterilizing and gang raping women, and it's fucking horrible. And these folks, over the last 4 years, as the world has noticed, they fear China for every reason, because China has resources that they couldn't possibly have, and their government. This is the other thing. The dude who just stepped down, president. Let's see if I can get a picture of that dude. The dude who just stepped down, is it Nazarbayev? This dude? No, Nazarbayev is, okay. So, where we go. Nice timing, too. Hold on one second. So, all right. So, this dude, where's his name? Hell, I'm blitzing on his name. Because he's not there anymore. This is, Tokyo. Sorry. Okay. So, let me put these, I got a good picture of these two idiots together. So, back up. Come on. All right, here we go. So, all right, these two idiots. Okay. This is Tokayev. This is Nazarbayev. Nazarbayev is was the president. He's the first president of Kazakhstan since the fall of the Soviet Union. Okay, that guy. And like Putin, he just stayed there forever. And like, he was for 30 years, some shit. Like, he's been the dude in charge of this thing, in charge of Kazakhstan, all during the Borat years, let's just say. And at one point, they told him to fuck off. He resigned. And then this guy is filling out his term, Tokayev. He just stepped down. This guy cut a bunch of deals with China to try and make money for the country. Now, for all the, goat fucking jokes of the Borat stuff, Kazakhstan has some solid architecture and infrastructure. It's, it's got huge impoverished desert-like areas. It's got Burning Man sections of the country, as it were. But compared to, because of the former Soviet Union, it's got some real resilient infrastructure. Like, if you look at the buildings the protesters are attacking, they're real buildings. They're not these kind of like tofu drag, cardboard Chinese buildings that the BRI has been building, right? it's a real country in that regard. Like, they have something to fall back on. Whoever takes over is like, oh, there's some shit here. You know what I mean? There's some countries where you could take over the place, but yet your job immediately would be to turn it into a place, right? You'd have to make it a country, right? It's one, if you take over Qatar, you're like, fuck, all right, this is pretty sweet. I now run this sweet place, right? If you take over, Iraq, even when Saddam Hussein's running it, you're like, fuck. These buildings look like shit. The roads are terrible. I got to basically start from scratch, right? Same thing. That's what Afghanistan is. That's a better example is Afghanistan. You take over Afghanistan, but for one city that the Americans sat in for a long time and with the British and helped, because we're like, yeah, we're not going to move our shit into a building like that. We'll have our engineers come over and build it. So there's dozens of buildings in Kabul that are pretty good. But the rest of the country that's, bifurcated into multiple tribes. It's a 12-tribe territory. It's not really a country. None of that shit is stable or good, and every building worth a goddamn was blown up a long time ago. So, why live in the desert? Because it's not all just desert. And some of it is, tribal. People have been there forever. It's how they've adapted. They just live there. But also, some of them are waiting for a river to come back that never will. Some are there because of the opium. And some reason, one of the best reasons to live in a desert is the same reason Ted Kaczynski lived out in the woods. Nobody fucking goes there, and they leave you alone to do your awful. One of the best ways to keep from getting invaded is live where there's nothing worth taking. That's ultimately why Afghanistan became a hub for terrorists. If you live in the area where there isn't oil, lithium, or opium, you're hundreds of miles from there. Nobody's going to go out there. Why would you drive a bunch of trucks out there for that shit? Now, this is all decision making that was made well before we had planes that could be refueled in the air. Anyways, so this dude made a bunch of China-friendly deals after this guy stepped down, with his blessing, of course, and with the alignment of, this kind of idea that Russia and China are buddies, which is bullshit. Like, friggin' just don't even start. Like, I don't want to hear that shit. Well, they're both communist, and but they, and then even though Russia fell, they have alignment of bullshit. Just stop it. Stop. And the idea that if Russia and China are laughing at the U.S., they're laughing for the same reason, or that it's even happening, is a joke in and of itself. Even when Trump was president, it's just kind of nonsense. These guys are jockeying for two separate things. Russia wants security. It wants Trump world. It wants a gated community in a shitty part of the world. That's the way it looks at it. It wants to be a white Russian ethno state. Okay? And that's been the growing point. And China basically has been imitating Russia since it was the Soviet Union. So whatever they do, that they'll try it. So Russia becomes an oligarchy and blows off its illusions of democracy. China becomes an oligarchy and blows off its illusions of communism. It just, we have different masks, but we're trying to be the same dude. The point is the masking. The point is wearing the mask, and that's where you get your wealth and your strength from. The mask allows you to deal with your populace, but the ultimate person behind it as a goal, as far as what they want, is the same fucking thing. The Russians want to be a white ethno state, Russia for Russians kind of idea. And the Han Chinese, which is where Xi Jinping and the majority of the Communist Party have their ethnic backup, believe that Han Chinese are superior to not only all other Chinese people, but all people in the world. You have, over the last, since Xi Jinping took hold, you have the Chinese version of the Nazism growth that happened in Germany. This belief that, and by the way, this is not the fault of the Han Chinese people. This is, any more than German birth people are all responsible for the growth of the Nazis. Because again, if you weren't on the team, they killed you even if you were Han, or even if you were German, right? Hans believe in racial superiority over, the party does anyways. That's the, because they're the tall, pretty ones in the north. That's the way they look at themselves. And any fans of Shaolin Long Fist versus Southern style will know this history is long and storied and has been around for maybe millennia, right? Yes, they altered DNA tests in China to say that you're Han Chinese because you can't get into. It's one of the reasons why, like, when family members of oligarchs in Russia get deals, it's seen as sort of standard graft. It's just, it's like Trump and his family. They're just passing out money to their family because that's what corrupt politicians do. It's very run of the mill. In China, around the Communist Party, it's largely done because of an ethnic strain, in the, of Han Chinese. Like you're keeping it in the family. It is basically an imperial system. They have come full circle in the same way that, like, the czars of Russia stole from the people. Just, they were basically kings. By the way, czar comes from Caesar. They borrowed that word and made their own. Do you know that? Do you guys know that? That czar comes from Caesar, that they made up their own word for Caesar. Okay. Because of history. Anyways, so the czars were basically the kings. They were the royalty of Russia, birthright leaders of the country. And we've come all the way around to, and those people, there's a difference between royalty and sort of what Hitler did, and which is the blood of the people is the reasoning behind it, and I'm just the best example, versus the Lord has ordained me, or the ownership of my family throughout this time, Lord, and all that kind of shit, being lords of the land, that made my family in charge of everything. So that's where most royalty comes from, especially in the Eastern Europe. So the czars were kings. They went through a communist arc. They toyed with democracy, and now they're basically back to it, just in this kind of junk gangster version. China was an imperialist series of, multiple countries loosely knitted together on culture, but had different rulers. Then during the Qin dynasty, they all united, hence the West calling them Qinna, or what eventually became China. They don't call themselves that. When they formed together, they called themselves Zhongguo, which means the middle land, or what they really mean is the center land, because Zhong is middle, but in the same way that it's the base point for the extreme. So all the rest of the world revolves around China. And also, not just China. Zhongguo, the middle kingdom that they're talking about, was effectively what became Beijing. What eventually they kind of shuffled towards the Han area, away from Nanjing, away from Chongqing, and away from the Western territories. And, it's why China's, split. Like, the U.S. has a lot of people on the coasts and densely populated, and then some sparsely populated stuff, but it's pretty even, dense to middle, fairly close. In China, it's a huge drop-off. 97% of the Chinese people live in half the country on the eastern side. So, anyways, over here, though, and I've been out in this area, when you meet Chinese people in this area, they look Kazakhstani. They look Turkish. The people we met in those areas look Turkish. They don't look ethnic Chinese. And the Chinese have been moving Han Chinese people into this area to breed them out of existence for a while, with the idea of this, we've all heard about the Chinese sort of 50-year plan that they put in place. Okay, they have a 100-year plan. Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, the rest of the stands, all the stands. Hey, Stan. Hi, my name is, You guys might want to listen up. Their 100-year plan is to breed all you guys out of existence. I'm not kidding. By the way, it won't work. But that's the plan. Not High from Denver, Colorado saying, greetings, sparklers. It's very interesting how Sparks. Why was this trending? Because Russia and this came up in the, where was it? Oh, it's in the other page. Hold on one second. And by the way, dude's got money. You're the head of a big Eastern European country. Go to America to get your facelift. I'm just saying. They lay off the filler, bruh. So, it was because this was trending. Hold on. Let's go back here. Russia doesn't rule out Latin American deployment. They're going to send people to Cuba and Venezuela. They're going to show us. Russia's going to, better watch out. Russia's going to send people to Cuba and Venezuela. Good luck, assholes. Have fun, because you're going to end up cleaning up messes. Like, from a strategic standpoint, you got to take these things seriously, but you take them seriously like mosquitoes can cause malaria, not mosquitoes can kill you from a bite, right? You just got to watch out for the malaria part. Set up some mosquito nets, limit your contagion, make sure that nobody's, there's offshoot stuff. But they're going to, this is not fucking 1965. And the Russians will have as much trouble in Cuba and in Venezuela as we would if we invaded and tried to enforce our version of democracy. You know what I mean? The ego of these assholes is hilarious. Anyways, so, and again, how expensive? Think of the American people and the American Congress debating a budgetary outlay to establish giant military bases in Venezuela. Imagine us arguing about the expenditures and where that money is going to come from. And our economy is closer to $29 trillion under normal circumstances. It was 20 during 2020. It went to 24 again, went back to normal pretty much last year. Now we're edging up on $28 trillion for GDP. Meanwhile, Russia has a $1.4 trillion GDP. We spend half their GDP just on our military. And with $60 billion, now you can do a lot more with a lot less these days. Military expenditures, shit is cheap. And especially if you don't intend to take it home. It used to be a big deal, and that's where we get, Trump's bullshit about the $83 billion, which is garbage. By the way, the $83 billion in Afghanistan that Trump and everybody keeps bringing up is the sum total of the cost of all the material, all the training, and all the personnel from the invasion in 2001 till we left. That's the $83 billion. We spent that. We spent $83 billion in Afghanistan over the course of 20 years. And we're like, in just materials, besides the other trillions of dollars of building their infrastructure and aiding the country and, all of our military that flew over it and just that shit. Boats surrounding it. Oh, God. All this stuff, trillions, probably $2.5 trillion by the end of it in real money. By the way, this is the morning show, so this isn't even the part where I dig into this news. This is sort of like background. This will be really helpful if you're watching when the Russia story comes up in a bunch of areas. And so, in World War II, tanks were hard to come by. You had to turn your factories into tank factories because where are we going to get enough factories to fight a war in Europe? We were baiting the Germans with inflatable tanks on the Northern Front so that they wouldn't know that we were coming on the for the Battle of the Bulge or whatever. So, back then you're like, if we have a tank, losing a tank's a big fucking deal. Coming up with another tank. Now, we're about this close to being able to 3D print them, and we can. And they're expensive, but we can afford it, and we can crank out a shit ton of them in a big hurry. And if we have to leave, we can just blow them up on the inside and turn them basically into rocks, which is what we did. When we left Afghanistan, we basically turned them into, they might as well be a broken down car on the side of the road. So it's cheaper to wage war now because you just leave the shit when you're done. And the Russians do it all the time. They use a lot of Chinese gear that they know won't work very well, but they're only going to use it for a few weeks, and then they're going to throw it away and get another one. What do you think of releasing the Afghan government money to allow the government to feed its people? No. Because they're not going to use it to feed their people. I'm speaking facetiously, Rasha. Parts of the tanks are now 3D printed faster or die cast. So we can assemble tanks a lot faster than in World War II. We're fairly close, though, to being able to 3D print big chunks of vehicles. And especially for the temporary ones, because you roll in there, you do it, and then you dump it. Turn it into a bomb, or it goes in on its own. That's the other thing. Like, America is 20 years ahead of everybody's robot soldiers, too. Like, the fighting dogs and all this. That's why the Chinese and the Russians have been showing pictures of them, with their little tanks with a gun on it. The Chinese tried it for the first time in this disputed territory down here. The Chinese rolled in these because their soldiers won't fight because it's too cold. So, and the Indians don't give a fuck. These dudes are like, the Indian soldiers that fight in this area are tougher than woodpecker lips, man. They are some bad motherfuckers. They fight with tridents. It's crazy. It's like fucking. It's like nothing ever changed. We'll get into that some other day. I just want to talk about this part. So you're distracting me. There's so much stuff to talk about. So Ukraine, dangerous border. Russia's always nervous. European expansion, eek. Meanwhile, the leader they put in charge in Kazakhstan was kissing China's ass, and there's a big pipeline that runs all the way through here and on its way through, they load it with oil and gas from Kazakhstan and supply to China. Well, Russia's been siphoning a bunch of that off because they're behind too. They need it too. Real tanks cannot be 3D printed yet. The U.S. are far more special than any other tank in the world. I agree. I said we're this close. I just mean in terms of world history, we're way closer. And again, these will be like temporary roll-in vehicles with no people in them. Not my point. The point is, we can make more tanks and afford to lose them because of the budget that we have and the technology. So anyways, and it's very different than back then. But Russia has a bigger problem. Like I said, our military budget is half Russia's GDP. Entire GDP. All right. They spend $66 billion on their military. They put 100,000 here. That stretched them thin. They could only afford to send a few dozen troops to Kazakhstan to help quell the protests on behalf of Kazakhstan. Because if this breaks loose, they can leverage China against Russia and Russia against China and build themselves up in a big game of risk that will fuck both of those countries. Kazakhstan is oil rich, man, and gas rich, and they have access to the Caspian Sea. They don't need this land over here. Yeah. And they partner with Iran to get back at Russia for what Russia did to the Chechen separatists and all that shit. Because, it's not like these guys are friends forever. One wrong color choice on the cootie catcher and shit blows up. Yeah, in World War II, the U.S. at its height, production made a tank every 15 minutes, an aircraft carrier every weekend. Yes, Yamamoto said we have awakened a giant. Yeah, and our capability for doing that is even greater now. And the vehicles and stuff that we have are more effective. We have more air support than we've ever had, and drones and all that kind of shit. So the chance of you even blowing our stuff up is even harder. But we're not going to put any shit in this area and let these guys blow it up. But they are. Russia's going to have to defend Omsk and fucking like this little area, the northern Mongolia, where they do look at the little trade area between them and Mongolia. Doctor's appointment today, listening from the waiting room. Oh, I hope you're well, Benny Loco. Big hug. I find this fascinating because we think of Russia because of its land size. This is the problem with the electoral college mentality. Is that, oh my God, what a giant country. Meanwhile, for all practical purposes, let's see. Let's see. Just curious. Let's see. What's the biggest one? Yeah, Turkey's screwed right now. That's another piece of noise. Yeah, so Russia has the biggest, let's see, like Ukraine's GDP. Yeah, so Ukraine's GDP is 155 billion. And since 2000, obviously these are sabotage points, but it's been rising with stagger starts since then. And there's no reason to, and this is right after the Soviet Union broke up. And then it went down as Russia tried to screw it out of existence. And then we started becoming friends with them. And then they attacked and destroyed the oil and gas and then Crimea and blah, blah, blah. And it's coming back up. And what's going to ultimately happen is that they're going to make, theirs is going to be higher than, Iran? And I'm just using these as an example of, capable country. Because so Iran's is 191. Considered a much bigger country than Ukraine, for example. And yet, Ukraine's already within shooting distance in just a decade. They'll overtake Iran's use. And again, let's look at the Russian economy and what the main, here you go. The economy of Russia is a mixed economy made up of almost 90% oil and gas. It's super mixed. It imports 366 billion stuff. Its main industry is petroleum. There is basically no difference between Russia and Saudi Arabia as an economy. They are they're at odds, and that's why the big fight that Trump had to talk them out of, collapsing the oil, because they were basically playing chicken with oil prices in 2020. They have a 62% service economy. No, wait. Yeah. Industry 32%, services 62%, and services is just like their own, just by volume, whatever. Why? This is fun. Look at this. Meanwhile, the Tucker Carlsons of the world are going to tell you that we suck, but Russia's got it together. Meanwhile, people ask, why is Russia's economy so bad? And here we go. This is where we are. Could the U.S. really cripple the Russian economy like Biden warns? Well, first of all, they're already crippling themselves. They don't need any help from us. But the answer is yes. Biden administration is fanning out with a pointed message to Moscow. You invade Ukraine, we're going after your economy. All right. One of the ways you go after the economy is you fuck up Nord Stream. You're like, but they let Nord Stream happen. Yeah, you got to let it be built before it's vulnerable. Because if they're taking oil and gas, through Iran and Iraq and into Europe this way, or over here into the Sea of Azov, into the Black Sea, and taking it into Europe on boats and that kind of shit, shooting boats and blowing up trucks that are driving across land because they have an agreement with some of these countries to go through Turkey, for example, shit like that. That involves killing a lot of people. And it's harder for the US to do that. But if these idiots build Nord Stream and it goes through an area that is, by the way, favorable to us in a couple of places, and we stop it from being insured, which we have, the Biden administration stopped the Nord Stream, basically anybody who wants to do business with the West can't insure the Nord Stream pipeline. So if it gets busted, they gotta pay cash out of pocket to fix the fucking thing, which is, hundreds of millions of dollars if it's a bad hit at the pipeline. And maybe it's not us. Maybe it's just some people who are pissed, who, from like Georgian separatists. Wink, wink. But if it gets, if the Nord Stream's in place, you've got a leash on them now. You guys behave, back the fuck up, and oil will flow and you'll make money and everything's fine. The second you fuck around, you're going to find out because it'll get blown up, not by us. Somebody magically will decide today's the day they're pissed at Russia. And the Nord Stream dries up. And then suddenly, by the way, if the gas and oil is cut off, God damn it. I don't know why no one thinks strategically like this at all. And I put this up today again. Where do you think Europe gets its liquefied natural gas if Russia can't supply it because the Nord Stream got blown up? If Russia can't supply Europe with liquid natural gas, who do you think they buy it from? And this is, a marginal shift up in the liquid natural gas exports from the United States. Economically, marginal for us. Take it or leave it. It's not going to be life-changing, but it's going to fuck Russia's economy into a cocked hat. Yes, hacking and spycraft is their other major industry because they're spoilers. They don't have to build anything, so you can burn. Blowing shit up is always the problem. That's our biggest concern with Russia, is that they don't have anything worth saving. Nope. Professor Howell, will this be on the exam? Yes, it will. Us. Europe buys it from us. China gets it from Kazakhstan. Now, see if I can find now. Anybody ever seen There Will Be Blood? China is drinking Russia's milkshake. Or desperately trying to, I suppose. They're fighting over the straw right now. Now, shall we? Let's see. China's Belt Road Initiative map. Oh boy. Here you go. Now this is the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative. This is so fucking good. I love you guys, and I can't wait to show you this picture. Hold on. I want to set it on the screen first. So, Russia's having problems in its own backyard in Kazakhstan. China just spent $27 billion in Kazakhstan, right? For oil and gas, right? And that $27 billion they spent, that's half of Russia's military budget. Oops. Now, take a look at this map for the overland route, because there's water routes and there's overland, the Belt and Road Initiative. The belt is, interestingly enough, the belt refers to the roads, and the roads refer to waterways. I don't know why they say it that way, but that's, even knowing Chinese, I don't know why they make that distinction. This is the BRI map, the Belt and Road Initiative. How is China going to get goods to and from Europe as a trading partner? And we'll talk about all the deals that were made with Europe and the EU break off and some of the seeds of Brexit over this shit that, have some stuff there. And then down here, India and Colombo, and then into Kenya, they don't show any of the African stuff because if you put the roads and stuff that they're putting in Africa, because it breaks off here and turns into a blue line all over the fucking place, you just go, this is horrifying. China is colonizing Africa, which it absolutely is. But look at Kazakhstan. Now do you understand why? Now, one of the reasons why the people in Kazakhstan rose up and why they're pissed off is because the leader of the country doubled the price of oil and gas to people, just doubled it, because he has the ability to do that with a stroke of a pen. He doubled the cost of it, and there were huge riots, and then he went, oh shit, and tried to drive it back. Why did he do that? Why did he charge his own people double? So he could cut a deal and sell it cheaper to the Chinese and still make a profit. He was literally, the Kazakh people were subsidizing Chinese oil imports. Imagine if Joe Biden tomorrow wrote an executive order that made gas, $10 a gallon so that we could sell it to Mexico cheaper. Because Mexico was promising him, I don't know, a Biden hotel. How do you think the American patriots would react? This much closer example. Literally, Trump went to Russia and Saudi Arabia and said, drive the oil price up so that we can make some more money. I'll help you guys. I'll talk the Mexicans into raising their, lowering output so that you guys can make more money on oil and gas instead of taking advantage of the fact that it's below free right now. Yes, Biden Hotel has the best beds. Sleepy Joe Inn. It's going to be great. And it's and Trump's going to be mad that if Biden went into the hotel business, he'd do even better than him still. Yeah.
They don't like the gas.
You think these enormous, look at some of the other countries. Like look at the blue through China over there. This is topping up into Russia through Mongolia. But look at Kazakhstan as the important point for going. Three of their huge chunks of this either transit or rely on stuff coming through Kazakhstan. That's why this fucking place got important all of a sudden. Thank you, Jill Carter. Slow down. I'm moving too fast. It's a lot to take in. You're right, Doug. I'm sorry. And the one thing you can count on with authoritarian governments is they're always going to get out over their skis. China historically has been rarely aggressive, conquering others. Modern China is much more aggressive. Partly true, Elizabeth, but you're also assuming that the provinces of China, the three kingdoms, were actually one thing. You could argue that they existed because they usurped two other kingdoms by uniting them, but ultimately controlling them. And remember, 我会说中文. I speak Chinese. I know what I'm talking about. I watch this stuff. All right, so right now, here's the other reason why Kazakhstan is now on fire effectively and Russia is having to push back because holy shit, China's moving in here. And China, as part of the deal they were making, was you guys are going to have to start rounding up the 1.4% of your population that are Uyghurs and keep the trouble down so they don't come over our border, because it's pretty goddamn porous. And start taking land. Because China basically doesn't use anything from this line over, except for having it and pushing back on India and stuff. They need water from here, so they basically pipe it down here. So, what's the problem? Well, shit, if this fails, why don't you just go through Russia? They got a great deal with Russia. Why won't Russia allow you to traverse their country all the way across here? Because they know that eventually you're going to fucking take it. What do they do in Xi'an? These are industrial centers. So Xi'an, Dalian, Fuzhou, and Beijing are like industrial centers. Like Shenzhen. So, these were and by the way, all of them, the new economic zones or whatever they were called back then, they only thrived because they opened up business with the West and started to liberalize. And then now that they've shut them off, they're all dying on the vine. Okay, but check this out. So here's Kazakhstan. We now know, and you can see why this is so, who gives a shit about Kazakhstan? When has there been any news about the movement is planning a false flag operation to invade Ukraine? That's a possibility all the time with them. They attacked us first. Right, bullshit. Nobody will buy it. And that's why they're reporting it, because it's a possibility. So the State Department and others will go, yes, it's a possibility. And if they do it, nobody buys it, because that is one of the ways you mute a false flag in the first place. False flags are always a problem since the fucking Gulf of Tonkin, and so we now know that. So one of the ways that you can media push back on that, both internally in China with propaganda, and in Russia with propaganda, or in the United States with just news, is to tell people they're going to do it, because if they could, they would. So assume. Now, here's the part that I want to tell you guys about. Okay, so why Kazakhstan? They've been planning this, right? They've been working on this shit. They had a deal with the dude. What's the fucking problem? Well, see all this shit down here? Because of COVID and all the supply chain bullshit, and because of them trying to attack India, this place, and this place, and this place, this is probably the last one that's barely surviving, all these got tourniqueted. Now they just got to float way out here and go and just sail around and not stop, because everybody's taking about 20% of what they were expecting to go through those ports, because they were like, fuck you guys. The red line looks inefficient. Well, the oceans are that way, but they're more efficient than the friction of ground. So what happens if Russia does invade Ukraine? Can Kazakhstan and China block Russia via oil and food, etc.? Well, the problem is that's a lot of resources to put into a war in Ukraine, and all of a sudden, we, quite frankly, through, CIA shenanigans, if we so chose, could support the people of Kazakhstan in taking their fucking country back. And then Russia has major problems. Also, they won't be able to buy or sell anything, because they'll start getting sanctioned like Iran. And because Europe is on the receiving end, Europe will be all on board with it, because we're really protecting Europe in that regard. It's a dumb move, and it's all macho bullshit. Anyway, so they were supposed to, half the shit goes this way, half the shit goes that way, right? Well, this lane right here, they can now go from here to Jakarta because Indonesia owes them a shit ton of money, so they seized a port down there, and then they'll just sail across the Indian Ocean to Kenya and pick up where they left off. Maybe they'll go around and refuel in Pakistan just to anger India, or, because they were supposed to build a huge chunk of the Belt Road through Pakistan, through here. I don't know why it's not on this list, but they've been trying this shit, and one of the ways is to just divert around these areas. But they're just going to have to go from here to here, which is fucking crazy. So, anyways, that's why all of a sudden this is a problem. Now, let's just say, since I've been accused of being CIA by some of the folks, if I was CIA, if I was MI6, if I was Bond right now, I'd be fucking with Kazakhstan like crazy, supporting the protesters in every possible way. I'd be taking shit from, our base in Iraq, flying it to a boat in the Caspian Sea, or sneaking it in through Turkey, and paying people to ship it to sympathetic people in Kazakhstan through Georgia and Azerbaijan or Armenia. Our Mosul base in Iraq, just drop some shit here, have some boats take it up here, just pay some people who are friendly to, that want a future for Kazakhstan like Ukraine has. Because the PowerPoint Kazakhstan has, if they're ever free to make their own fucking decisions without being puppeted by Russia or bullied by China, they'd be enormously powerful. And they have to know it. How do you not know? I can't believe, and that's why that dude kept hold of power for 30 fucking years. Because he's got to know that that he's got enormous power, even as a puppet. That if they ever, if the United States ever pushed back on Russia, or they got bogged down fucking around with Ukraine trying to take the whole goddamn country instead of just a slice of it and acting all macho, they'd be in deep shit. This is a huge new Afghanistan for Russia. That they have to deal with a direct border. Afghanistan's way down here, so you don't have to. They have to go. People who, if you're mad, you're in Afghanistan. They blew up your village. They tried to kill you. They did all kinds of shit to you and your family and stuff. You got to get through all these tribes who may fucking hate you because they want these resources, and your tribe has been on the other side of the resource wall. So why would they ever want to split New Tartaria? Right. No, Kazakhstan is not in NATO. But if they were, Russia's just done. Just done. Yeah, Tokayev is getting crapped on because he's only been in office since 2019. The guy before him was the first president. And really runs the place, Johnny Mac. But still, Tokayev made the deal with China around the BRI. He's the one who started playing footsie with Xi Jinping and giving a lot of concessions. And by the time they sort of woke up to what it was really about, Russia was pissed. And they still are. But think about this. Think about how we haven't heard anything about this chunk of land till now. Except for Borat movies. Right? Why now? Why this? Why all of a sudden? Is it conceivable that we, and more likely our European allies, especially the French and the Germans, are sending their intelligence services into Kazakhstan to basically, light a fuse that's been laying there? Yeah. Is it us? Maybe we're giving some help to them. I wouldn't doubt it. But I don't think we need to. It's already doing it. Oh, Borat is a very educational movie. But I mean, I mean, and so just unpacking what I've been telling you for the last little bit. China's trying to encroach on Russia's territory through Kazakhstan and basically take over the country with debt. They've been doing that everywhere. If they do that, they have a direct line to the Caspian Sea. They have, they don't have any problem making deals with Iran, and the Russia, China, Iran pushback against, Western powers and blah blah blah. Yeah, it's Biden. It must be Biden's fault. It has to be. I don't know why they wouldn't. Doesn't mean they won't. What? What was that again? I wouldn't put anything past U.S. intelligence. I would. They're not stupid. And by the way, don't let the fact that and this is probably what gets me accused of being a CIA agent for some reason all the time. Don't let the fact that every problem on Earth has been caused by a CIA agent in every fucking movie you've watched about spycraft since fucking what, 87? Because they're the easiest bad guy. We don't offend another country. We don't deal with the fact that they've got intelligence forces that murder and kill and blah blah blah. We don't piss off any countries we want the movie might be distributed in. We're shitting on ourselves, so what's the problem? Die Hard ruined the FBI. Yeah, I mean, it's just like the rogue cop storyline and a lot of things, and the rogue agent storyline just makes everybody look terrible. And by the way, it's also timed when a shit ton of Eastern European and Chinese money started making its way into Hollywood funding. Weird that the story changes. So before you start shitting on your own intelligence services because you've been told to, understand that if they asked you to join the CIA tomorrow and you had the means and wherewithal, would you bring some sort of evil bullshit with you to it? Or would you look at real threats and go, oh my God, this is what's going on in the world? Like let's just say I briefed you. You're a CIA agent. You're brand new. You're at the farm or whatever. I love the movie The Recruit. They send you to the farm to teach you how to pick up people in bars and meet other hot CIA agents. And I sit you down in a room and I go, all right, this is what's up. Chinese are building the Belt Road Initiative and they're using debt traps to control Eastern European and African nations. They're building secret military bases in Saudi Arabia. We just discovered one and the Saudis shut it down. They didn't even know it was there. It was our satellites that pointed it out. And Russia is about to start a fight in Ukraine with this knocking on its back door, which would destabilize the entire fucking region. We don't want to burn the goddamn place down, but the Russians are killing people in Germany over this pissant little fight when they're about to get curb stomped from behind. And we just found out that the Russians have interventionist ideas that they want to reclaim. They're going to go Ukraine, Belarus, Lithuania, Latvia. They're going to claim all this, and then they're going to seize the Black Sea. That's what they think they can do. That's their true plan for the next 2 decades. And we could stop them with a full-scale war and a bunch of people, millions will die. Or we can send you on a little boat in here, and you can drop off some shit to these guys over here and help them fight back against these guys and these guys who would like to crush them in the middle. What do you think? Would you go, no, I can't do that. I can't participate in such an immoral and evil act supporting protesters in Kazakhstan. I look at the world like a nature photographer. If an animal is starving, you just got to let it starve to death because, that's natural. And what's natural is that the Chinese and the Russians will squeeze the Kazakhstani people out of existence at some point. Right? That's what you're going to do? Why? Because somebody will characterize you in a movie as being evil? Yes, that's right. I'm not CIA. I took the place of Colonel Sanders in the Pentaveret when he went tits up. This is true. Also, would Colonel Sanders bake me a cake on my 10th birthday? For real. So I might be part of the Pentaveret. So you are CIA. Right. I'm your girl where I start, right? And I am a colonel. That is true. I am a Kentucky colonel. You don't believe me? You guys don't believe that I'm a colonel? Hold on. 1 second. Eat that, motherfuckers. The Honorable Hal Sparks is in the title of a Kentucky colonel. How do you like that? Yeah. So, follow orders, you crazy people. All right, hold on. Let me hang this back up. Let me just, yeah. I worked for Patton, yeah. No, I did not work for Patton. He was just governor when I became a Kentucky colonel. It's not a Confederate army. It's a militia standing for the state of Kentucky. Thanks, Deirdre. I try. So, there's a bunch of news you're hearing and you're not hearing about shit like this. Does that make Al agree, right? You like half crispy, half regular? I will put that on your order, sir. Hal is a militia. I knew it, yeah. Confederate CIA. That's right. I'm a sneakiest son of a bitch. And by the way, Kentucky was a divided state, half north, half south. And my people come from the folks that died for the North. The ones that, had kids and then died. Anyways. I'm not related to Mitch McConnell, no. But while, and I think this is the area right over here where the buildup is happening. Do you think it's a coincidence that, and by the way, let's just say, we're already on board with the idea that I know you've been told that the CIA causes all the problems in the fucking world and that there are no bad guys in the world except blowback, right? It's all blowback. Couldn't we see that supporting the use of Assad in Afghanistan against the Soviets would eventually lead to them attacking us? No. Why would we? We helped you guys not get invaded by the Russians, and now you're turning on us? What the fuck is that about? Right. It's a reasonable experience to have. But letting the Russians take over Afghanistan would have been brutal and horrifying and all this stuff. It would have just meant that they would have had the 9/11 instead of us if they'd have been successful. And may still. They're brutal in putting stuff down. They don't care. So, anyways. Yeah. So, in all these areas, it's fascinating to me that the biggest country in this whole exchange, the biggest break off from the former Russian Federation, the biggest one, made no news except for Borat for the last 3 decades. Why? Because they were relatively functional, kind of poor, a lot of land, played nice with their neighbors, and just went on with it. As an internal oligarchy continued to grow and metastasize, and which is the cause of the problem. Dude's an authoritarian psychopath. But that's one of the reasons why, arguably, Moscow fears him. Because the dude can turn off the pipelines. Same thing with China. The reason the Kazakh, they were in control was effectively they could do it. The problem was the guy who came in was just being dumb and jacked up the oil prices and gas prices for the people, and then whatever. So, wake up, time to die, right? Can't wait for Hal's lecture on Nietzsche and his profound influence on modern intellectual history. Oh, fuck Nietzsche. Nietzsche was a depressive and an egomaniac. He's, yeah. I talk about like weaponizing and commodifying paranoid depression. That's what Nietzsche did. Like, how do I bottle low self-esteem as high self-esteem to a bunch of future, the great grandparents of 90s incels? So, understood, Kylo. I appreciate that. He's been dead for a long time anyway, so it'd be a rather crispy lay. All right. So, anyways, this came up. This was just because of this bullshit. So Russia, Poland's foreign minister said Europe was closer to war than at any time in the last 3 decades, which it's been nowhere near war at all. The invasion of Georgia, I suppose he said the same thing then. As Russia said, diplomatic efforts to diffuse tensions over Ukraine were hitting a dead end. Russia says Ukraine talks hit a dead end. Right, we know this, yeah. And this is the Polish prime minister. Well, yeah, and he's got problems as well. Yeah, they're going to talk this shit out, and they're trying to, it's a lot of saber rattling and bullshit. But the idea that, the point I'm trying to make is, let's say you're Vladimir Putin, and you live here, or the people think you do. You actually live, somewhere over here on a really nice, and like a multi-million-dollar estate. Or I think over here, actually. It's actually nicer in this area. And you've had 2 decades of people in this area, rising up, pushing back. You've tried many times to upend their governments and failed. You've put people like Paul Manafort in a position with a Russian puppet Ukrainian president to shoot protesters, to snipe them. By the way, same shit's playing out here. Almost like clockwork. Remember the dude, the Kazakh president tells them to shoot to kill the protesters? This just happened, like this week. Yeah, here you go. Global News. I don't know, this is what a rando news source. Excuse me, but it was everywhere. Kazakhstan gives shoot-to-kill orders against anti-government protesters. Kazakhstan's president authorized security forces on Friday to shoot to kill those participating in unrest, whom he called terrorists, opening the door for a dramatic escalation and a crackdown on anti-government protests that have turned violent. Central Asian nation this week experienced its worst street protests since gaining independence from the Soviet Union. No thanks. 3 decades ago, and dozens have been killed in the unrest. The demonstrations began over a near doubling of prices for the type of vehicle fuel that quickly spread across the country, reflecting wider discontent with authoritarian rule. That was just they threw a match on the gasoline, right? In a televised address to the nation, Tokayev used harsh rhetoric, referring to those involved in the turmoil as terrorists, bandits, and militants, though it was unclear how peaceful protests gathered steam and then descended into violence. I've given the order to law enforcement and the army to shoot to kill without warning. Those who don't surrender will be eliminated. Yeah. And then they called for help, and Russia sent in 2,500 troops. Kazakh government resigns after violent fuel prices. And a bunch of the people in the parliament walked off. House shopping for jackets. Oh, is that what it is? Is there a jacket ad? Oh, this thing? This always comes up. I always get this one. The Kodazen thing or whatever. Because I think, yeah, I mean, I might have, that shirt doesn't look that bad now that you bring it up. I mean, people do like it when I wear the Henleys. You guys, it becomes a topic. I need more of them. So, and again, let's see. Yeah. So there's a bunch of this shit going on here. authorized to shoot to kill order, yada yada. Here they are in this. Who's given the orders to, this is off Reuters, so they'll end up giving me half the story and wanting me to pay for it. Now, again, if you didn't know where this was, and this is, by the way, why the right wing a lot of times will use footage from Kazakhstan and Belarus and Ukraine and other places where they have shit like this, as Biden is sending the troops out, to quell protesters or quell Americans who are fighting, masking, blah, blah, blah. And they'll show footage and you're like, but the writing is in Russian. That's the reason is because if you didn't know any better, this could be Boston or something. Just from the angles you're looking at. This giant Christmas tree. Look at this big, nice Christmas tree over here in the town square. And this is Boots. Yeah, this might have caused it all. I bought one of these for Summer because she likes the movie Inception. So we got that. She got that as a Valentine's gift like 2 years ago. That was one of them. Yeah, there you go. This dude, there he is. Gets a new leader, old systems grip on power remains. Yeah, the dude's still in charge. So all this shit is happening, but they have a functioning country. This is fine. Tokayev wins vote to become Kazakhstan's second president. That's not him, for the record. Come back here. I'll help you. Whatever. Yeah, they're just snatching people up. By these people, by the way, they're done. You're seeing like this old lady, these people, they're gone. Just count on the fact that these folks are dead. Crackdown on peaceful protests, right? That's Human Rights Watch writing on it. They're just snatching people up, and there's not enough of them to do it, so they're just going to start shooting. That's why they asked for the Russians to come in. And this is all over them doubling the price of fuel. Okay, so you're right. This is happening. You just had to. You're Russia. You're Vladimir Putin. You just had to send 2,500 troops into Kazakhstan to help stabilize the government there. You're really going to start this shit? Because I guarantee if we, like I said, we haven't already, or if Europe hasn't already, or the Israelis on our behalf, or somebody else haven't already started helping people, like supplying them with arms and shit like that for all kinds of violent chicanery in Kazakhstan against the Russian puppet government there. If they fuck around in Ukraine and start doing this, we're going to sanction the shit out of them, and then a bunch of stuff is going to start flowing in through old lines here, up into here, and they're going to be dealing with this border. What's with the blue camo? That's city camo, largely. Blue and gray. It's for hiding in rubble and snow. So anyways, that I just find that shit fascinating. I hope you do too. I hope I wasn't boring you too much. But the idea that they're going to do this with this here and all this shit, Turkey's economy's collapsing, by the way. You realize that too, right? Have we talked? Is anybody? All right. But they have a strong man. Remember what Trump said about the Erdogan? Let him beat up people on American soil. Let his security forces beat up Americans who were protesting. Remember that? Just let him leave. Just let him get away with it. This is Turkish economy. Will it collapse? Turkey's economy will come down with a big bang without blah blah. Turkey's unraveling economy. Turkey, look at this shit. Turkey's inflation hits 36% amid financial turmoil. Shit. But he's a strong leader. You can't argue with that. Right, guys? He's a strong man. That we should have people like him in charge. Or people like Putin. If we only had somebody like Putin in charge, we could have an economy smaller than Italy's before you know it, with almost an equal population and a shit ton more land. What great work he has done. Oh, yes, all the Russian leaders for the last 30 years have done such fascinating and terrific work with all of their natural resources. Right. Yeah, he's the Turkish Trump. Trump loves this fucking dude. Told business leaders on Monday Turkey was reaping the rewards of his policies. You think? Yeah, Erdogan's in deep shit. Prices hit 36% December as cost of transport, food, gas and used cars, food and other staples ate into household budgets. Most central banks raised interest rates to help cool inflation, but Turkey has gone the other way. Yeah, they loosened economic. He went the Trump way. He was like, we need a negative interest rate. We just need more money into the system. And then, sorry, Turkish people, I feel bad for you. But Erdogan has described interest rates as the mother and father of all evil. That'll do it. Maybe you just exercise. Maybe you need an exorcism in your economic thing. Perhaps maybe shake a stick over it or something. Splash holy water. U.S. inflation 36%. No, we're not going to get anywhere close to that. We're 7% year over year. They're at 36%, period. They're going to be eating their money soon. It's the same thing with Venezuela. Now, by the way, when did this shit start? Anybody know? Anybody know when Erdogan's real economic problems really started? What sort of moment you can trace it back to them kind of, I don't know, it's a little tough, but, they could have weathered COVID, blah, blah, blah. Anybody? Oh, it's pretty easy. When he started taking his cues from Vladimir Putin. They started playing nice with Russia to try and suck up to the power, in that country. And yeah, it was right before COVID. But it was because they were siding with Russia and the Syria issues and all that shit. Remember us leaving our allies and all those folks in Syria and giving Russia 2 of our bases and all that stuff? Yeah, about then. That's when his economics like, I'm gonna do magic. How Trump's saying we need a negative interest rate in the United States? We're gonna try that here. How your Kentucky CIA training ever led you to record hominids procreating in their dwellings? It's just a question. I can't answer that, or I'd have to kill you. 990. Yes, Erdogan is Putin's bitch. He wanted to play in the sandbox with Putin and Trump. Trump's gone. Putin's still there, but on a hard fade as well. That's why he's muscling around town. And they can't go with Xi Jinping because their debt problems are too big to take on any of the bigger BRI, the Belt Road Initiative stuff. They can't afford to do it. By the way, you're watching Hal Sparks Mornings Mega Worldwide. This is my offshoot show. I do it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday because my trainer has me coming in at Tuesday and Thursday mornings, and I can't move it around. So otherwise, I'd probably be on 5 days a week. But then I would be totally exhausted. And so, anyways, this is so like and subscribe. Give a thumbs up if you enjoy this content. I don't know that you're gonna hear it anywhere else, really. I should bring on Malcolm Nance to talk about some of this shit. Because I would love, yes, Ramona, we see your comments. You have to understand, though, I stream live on 4 different channels, and so all the chats fuse together, and they all go by. That's what happens when people don't golf, right? Oh, and NATO got upset because Turkey began taking Russian arms. Yes. Well, it wasn't that NATO got upset. It was that Russia and Turkey basically formed a little mini arms treaty. And with that comes, it's not free. They're not just going to give you guns to sit on. Here, have some, we got some leftover shit. The American taxpayer is pissed over the $83 billion over the course of 20 years that we gave to the Afghan military, right? And used over there. You think the Russian taxpayer is like, yeah, fuck it. We got some guns laying around. Hand it off to them. Chris Sampson, yeah, I love Chris. Chris would be great to talk about this. He and I talk he'll occasionally send a message on, he'll tweet me and say, check this little piece of information out. You put in serious amounts of research, Hal, one of the best informed Americans I've seen. Oh, thanks, Manchita. I appreciate that. Well, that's what this has been my habit for like the last year, especially, is I do my afternoon show and then fix dinner for the family, watch the news. And then the next morning, after I do the morning show, since we started it especially, or before that, I would just get up, watch the news, and then I would go do watch lectures on history from, international institutes, both ones I agree with and ones I don't agree with, because wherever they crisscross, the truth might be. Hal, my cousin is on a sub off the coast of Taiwan. Is he safe? Yes. Yes, he is. He's safer than anybody. Yeah, China's not going for Taiwan anytime soon. It would be fucking dumb. They have too many problems of their own. They'd be better off invading Australia. It would be better for their economy, and it would be devastating. I'm telling you, you got to stop thinking about these people like they're the strongmans they think they are. I guarantee you, at some point in the last 3 months, the Putin and Erdogan and Xi Jinping have all had diarrhea. They've all had to shift meetings around because they're making mud soup. I guarantee it. They're human beings. They eat shit. They don't exercise. They don't read much. They're led everywhere. And they have to flex control over their own fucking personal lives by being dicks in public. China will invade New Zealand and take over the Shire. It'll never happen, Carl. We won't let it happen. I just guarantee it. Why is Hungary's inflation so low? Because they're really a isolated economy for the most part. They got plenty of stuff and not a lot of. I mean, there's some like Switzerland. They're like Switzerland. They're going to have problems, but most of it, because they're centrally located or stuff has to go through there. They're like Walmart. The trucks have to pass by. Chinese president looks constipated. China's trying to hold itself together. They ain't going to do nothing. Yeah, they're having a real hard time. The BRI is falling apart. Putin rides horseback shirtless. He hasn't done that in a while. He's been isolated up in his little tower like Rapunzel. So, let's see. And I posted this one too. So, yeah, I put up, oh, this is even worse. Shit. Moscow Times. Bloomberg's going to make me pay for it. I'll just show you the Moscow Times. Russian 2020 on inflation more than double the official target. Guess what? Back up. Russian inflation accelerates in January despite rate hikes. They're trying to do the same thing we are, which is, raise interest rates. Fuck you. I'm not paying for you, Bloomberg. I know I'm going to have to buy, don't forget to like and subscribe and give a thumbs up and stuff, because I'm starting to have a prescription, or a subscription for everything. All right. Russian inflation accelerates to 8.61 as of January 10th. Russia's consumer inflation accelerated to 8.61% as of January 10th. The economy, and again, if in the United States, the average American, the median income for an American is $68,000. The median income for a Russian is $9,000. It's $1,000 less than the average Chinese. Now, the Chinese, there's a lot more millionaires and a huge number of super impoverished, because you only have to, they consider you out of poverty if you make more than $401 a year, I think. Or no, a month. It's a month. Yeah. $401. If you're $400 a month, it's poverty. China got rid of poverty by giving people $12 more. One for every month. So an 8.6% rise in the cost of consumer goods compared to what they were for an American family is a struggle. It's annoying. It's concerning. We don't like it, but it's not fucking devastating. In Russia and China, it sure as shit is. 4% above the target. They already thought it was going to be 439. By the way, or 539. Ours is 5.2 if you take out gas and which was negative the year before and is a false number anyway. And used cars, which people do not buy a new used car, a new to them used car every fucking year. Putting used cars in with fucking toilet paper and eggs is just dumb. There you go. Look at this. Now we've got a taper, right? The stock market is going to be affected by the taper, and we go back and forth, and blah blah blah, right? That's what you've heard. Like, well, Jerome Powell is going to squid, and they're going to crash the stock market because he started the taper earlier. And da, 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 da. Meanwhile, Russia's over here like with these giant levers, just fucking pull something, comrade. Do this, lift and pull and pull and lift and pull. But I mean, throw the rate hike, pull that down. Too much, push it back. Yeah. Go incognito and skip most paywalls on new sites. Okay. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that, Kenneth. I will do just that. Ivan, throw the giant switch that makes the rates go up. Not too much. The rates must go down. You don't, economies, especially large-scale economies, maybe Russia thinks they're not one because they're smaller than California, but for them they are. You gotta, it's gentle correction, kids. I know people also want to, like, our party, you're taking over the government, we'll just throw it back this way. No, we'll throw it back that way. Like, no. One of the reasons why you do test and pilot programs when you pass a bill, for example, and why most bills, when they create even a new social program, which a lot of people want, they're like, it would work if we just. The reason you start slowly introducing it to see if it works is because if it doesn't, you can rescind it without doing a shit ton of damage. And if it does work, you can go, oh, it works better in this area than that, But but not in Russia, man. Push the button, flip the switch, do something, shit. The central bank has raised interest rates to their highest level in 4 years as inflation threatens the fragile pandemic recovery. What is there? Borrowing cost, they have 8.5% interest right now. Ours is what? 0.05%? As far as like Fed borrowing, Fed bending. The regulator hiked key rate by full percent, a whole point. Are you out of your mind? We're talking about edging up like a quarter point over 3 separate quarters. And even then, they're like, if it's a problem, we'll tip it back. We're going to keep, and they're like, fuck it, the point. Just throw another point on there, man. That's just fucking dumb. No wonder your economy is fra. This is when it all went up. Hey, remember when you guys were playing nice? And then inflation went up next to it because you could get all the shit. And he goes, and the interest rate, and then they jacked the interest rate to 17% in 2015. Christ, I thought this was going back to the 90s. I didn't even look at the bottom. I was like, I thought this was probably since they opened the market or something like that. This isn't even that long ago. Drunk. This seems to be your sweet spot. That's what they're going for. See, 8.25%, and inflation was 2.5. They're trying to match this. This is what fucking happens. They're pretending that 2020 didn't happen, that's not what's affecting the interest rate. And they're trying to go back to monetary policies that affected it and set it in some way without taking into effect the supply chain and the BRI and all this other shit. Thanks, Danielle. God damn, these people are dumb. Hey, it worked really well in 2018, man. Yeah, if you just pretend 2020 never fucking happened. Look at it over here. Look at this. Here's 2020. This is oh shit, we got COVID too. June 2020. There it is. Interest rate was at 4.5. They just let it coast basically, and look what happened. 3%, 2% is usually the target. Most nations target 2% for inflation. It's a normal. As new shit gets involved in research and development and all kinds of other stuff, make a better egg, and so eggs get slightly more expensive because they do whatever, all that. Now, because the eggs you bought in 1995 didn't have omega-3s and shit like that, right? Yeah, this is all Biden's fault. And then right here, look at this crisscross point. That's got to suck. Look at that. Dee-doo, dee-doo, dee-doo. November 20th to October 20th. Oops. Rump. Now they're basically in line. Now they're fused. Can you imagine how fucked you'd be? Like, what if your economic minister is going, our economy is not big enough to shake this, and our interest rate will always track with inflation? I mean, that won't happen, I don't think. But imagine, like, the hair pulling that's going on over there right now. All we have to do, let's just pretend it's 2018, guys. Come on. Please. Look how low inflation was. And we had it right there in the sweet spot. Somewhere between 7 and 8. And we just hold that together. It's going to be okay, guys. No, it's not. Stupid. Kazakhstan was once Tartaria, where the Tartars came from. Yes, the Romans who... and Germanic tribes that broke off and went up there that eat raw meat and an egg. That's where steak tartare comes from. The Tartarians. That's right. And it's delicious. I have to admit, it was a weird thing that I ate tartar sauce right. You giving out 5 eggs to the stupids? Yes, this is true. I mean, I think they qualify. Today's 5 eggs. I don't know if it goes out to the Russian economists or the Russian military strategists or the Turkish ones or rich people's snack. It used to be poor people's food. They didn't even cook it. You can make it yourself. It's a raw egg and raw sliced beef. Yeah. Yeah, hamburger, egg, and onion mix, still served in Germany. Right. It's poor people food. The only reason it gets served in high-end restaurants and why it's expensive is because nobody else can pay the insurance for serving raw beef. Where are the Tartarians today? The argument is that they became the Russians and the Belarusians. They are those people. Like, here, you want to see? Here, where's this dude? Hold on. Vladimir. Yeah. Here, you want to see where the Tartarians went? Here, let's see. I got to do this without the audio being on or something. I got to put here. Okay. Here's this where the Tartarians went. This is what they turned into. This is an example. He's a Ukrainian fighter. Fights mostly in Germany. This is what you're talking about when you're talking about, like, Tartarian genetics. This dude is fucking enormous. Yeah, shrimp and lobster was poor people food too. This dude is he's not fun like the other other Ukrainian Rogan watches. He likes it. I don't care what he says. This dude, like, he fights in Germany all the time, and he's just and he's got long fucking arms. That guy, whoever he's fighting must be tall. A lot of the guys, they have a hard time fighting. See how the guys go in really small? It's because most of these guys he's taller. He's so much taller than them, they can't get inside. So he's like Drago from fucking, yeah. They go out and they try to find tall boxers so it doesn't look like he's just obliterating people. Dude is just enormous. He's a heavyweight fighter. It's just gross. He's just a beast. And a lot, he's got a lot of fuck, who's the other guy? There's a who's the Ukrainian boxer? I blitzed on his name. Lomachenko. This is the other guy. He's smaller. He's a lightweight. This is this dude. They call him the Matrix. Yeah, this guy. They call him the Matrix because he apparently can like decode your fighting style. Like he fights somebody in the first 3 rounds. He's just basically checking what you do, and then he just shifts what he's doing and fucks you up. And they call him Nomaschenko because people quit fighting him. They tap out. And yeah. And he has this really weird, he does like all these like memory let's see, do they show his training in this? Like, and they can't get him. Yeah, and he just like he does this thing where he pops and shuffles and then he right hooks and then he steps to the left, and as you're recovering you're like, I'll hit him, and he's not there anymore. He moved to the left. Yeah, dude is a machine. Oh, that was a bad knockout. That one was rough. Dude, I mean, just the skill, it's just beautiful to watch. Anyways, if you like boxing, like Lomachenko is probably one of the greatest boxers of all time. He's like he won, like he does that too. He'll go around behind you. He'll keep a hand on you so you're blocking like this, and then you look up and he's not there anymore. So he rolls around and just keeps punching you. It's so funny. And all these people are like, oh, god damn it. And they all do, like, he did a backflip after he won his first title fight in the ring. It's just, so anyway, so you want to know where the Tartars went? They all moved to Ukraine. By the way, these are Ukrainians. Like, you think you're going to roll over the Ukrainians? All right. So that stuff's fun. I mean, I like boxing and stuff. Too bad boxing is fixed. It is. Those are long fights. Yeah. Raw meat and eggs. No. Yeah, his legs are so fast. That dude. Yeah, it's great. It's not fixed. I remember, yeah. Anyways, if look up Lomachenko if you want to watch some good fights, especially. Yeah, and we have Jake Paul. Hey, Jake Paul is he's an idiot, but he decided he became a meme boxer, right? That's what he is. Testosterone much? Well, you can't get rid of your testosterone. You have to channel it. Oh, YouTube boxing is fixed. I see. Watch Trump wrestling. Yeah, he was a featherweight, and then he went up to lightweight or whatever. Like he's moved up 3. Lomachenko won 3 belts in 3 weight divisions faster than anybody in history. That's the big thing. He went up 3 weight classes and won each time. One of my coworkers is Ukrainian. She's in her 70s and she would fuck you up. Hal killed us ladies, those boxers, not helping the Tartans case. Oh, I see. Sorry. Tyson's going to punish Jake. Yeah. Anyways, it's 11 o'clock already. This is it. Bye. For me, anyways. It probably dragged for you with all the fucking history lesson bullshit. We got through one trending topic. Why is Jen Psaki trending? Because Biden's going to talk in a little bit, or did already. Did he already do it about infrastructure? Yeah. Why is Stalin trending? Oh, God. States voter reform laws about who gets to count the votes, count the vote. Yeah, it is. That's true. What? More Stalin alone is killed. Yes. So? Yes. Materially. Aside by January, the stagecraft is so awful, so not president. He just walked out of a thing. They had the thing set up. He just wanted to say something and split. He had someplace to go. Steve Cortez. I'm sure he's concerned. The stagecraft. How are we going to shit on him with all these jobs and America becoming the leading liquid natural gas supplier in the fucking world, and 5 new chip factories and 6 new battery factories opening up, and the electric car market exploding and all this? How are we going to shit on him? Stagecraft. Those who vote decide nothing. Those who count the votes decide everything. Was that Stalin or Biden? Yeah, but he's making the point that they're trying to change that. He's making the point that they're being Stalin-esque. He's bringing that up, but they're too fucking dumb to get the reference. He's considering the changes that Republicans are trying to make to get between the voter and the office as being Stalin-esque. He's not saying we need to be that. He's saying they're doing that. These laws are about that. This is how stupid these fuckers are. He knows. He's making the case that Trump's fans are trying to be Stalin-esque. And then, of course, then there's Stalin is the new okay, whatever. And then India takes over Twitter. Oppose me and we'll destroy you is truly the most urgent terrorism threat in the U.S. today. It's also communism. I repeat examples. Milestone. What? Most urgent terrorist threat. Yes, that's what it. Oppose me and we'll destroy you. That's exactly what he's saying. Oh, you mean attack cops at the Capitol and try to upend democracy, and you'll get a lawyer for free from the state, have a fair trial, be offered bond, and if you don't threaten anybody's life, more than likely fucking get it. Jesus Christ. Wow. He's, all right, yeah. So anyways, Biden is basically saying that the Republicans are acting in a Stalin-esque way, and they're like, he thinks you have to be more like Stalin. Like, the laws that they're talking about, this is just dumb. Used to be a respected statesman worldwide. His successor, Khrushchev, tried to hide his own crimes by launching a defamation campaign on Stalin along with, yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, it's from Hegel, of course. And no. They were all awful. There's enough awful to go around in that crowd. And the dead people that Stalin killed, his own people, and the 3 million anybody know where Voldemort got his name from? In Harry Potter? Anybody? Anybody think it has to do with this area right here? Hold on. Let me see. I'm going to find something that's a better. That's where it came from. How Joseph Stalin starved millions in the Ukrainian famine, which was called the Holodomor. Hi. I don't understand what about you. You could see them walking about, just walking, and one would drop, and then another, and so on. And he said many years later in a case history collected in the 1980s by a congressional commission. Yeah, that was Khrushchev telling us what happened. The Holodomor's death toll. 3.9 million Ukrainians starving to death. And that's, yeah. Holodomor. That's where it comes from. Tu parles français, Debbie? I need to practice my French. I'm getting a little better at it. After spending most of my time kind of keeping my Chinese topped up for years, I've decided I wanted to revisit that one. The Ukrainian famine was a clear case of man-made famine. By the way, anytime people are concerned about government doing central planning and the deaths that will come from it, Most of the time, they're gonna cite shit like this, collectivization, and what China did under Mao. And they're right. It's a stupid idea. You breed in weakness. That's why diversity is good. You don't want central planning. You want, you can have central guidance, and you can make sure that there are limits on stuff so that people don't go too far off the res, to use an old-fashioned term. Kulaks were considered well-to-do peasants. They're the ones who actually had land to farm and were farming it. And strangely, they wanted some of the food that they grew for their families to eat, and apparently that was a big problem. Oui, je parle français, House Sparks, as often as I can. That's lovely, Debbie. Well, I'll have to... C'est ça, Besseron, je suis là aussi. You do too? Excellent. You have to study? Yeah. Red Famine, Stalin's war on the Ukraine. They were going to bleed it and then just took it. It's part of the reason. See anything similar in the circumstance in Kazakhstan right now? Ukraine or Finland versus Russia, both, but which one? Oh, as far as capability, Finland, because they have more backup. The Swedes want to do it too. Yeah, we haven't even touched the whole Sweden fighting Russia thing. Has anybody seen you ever seen the movie Let the Right One In? It's a vampire movie. It's really great, really disturbing. They made a remake of it. It's a Swedish film, right? Anybody seen it? YouTube's seen it. It always takes the chat takes a minute to catch up with what I'm talking about. Show you images from it. Yeah. It's, hold on. How can let's choose a picture that won't give any story away. Yeah, here you go. So this is Let the Right One In. And it's amazing. It's a fantastic vampire film. This is the vampire in the movie. Her name is Ellie in it. But there's a lot of concepts about, if you're a vampire, are you male or female? Are you a man or a woman? Because you can't procreate and you can't form emotional bonds. So you're really more of like a leech that looks like a person, is part of the case, I think, that they make with this. And this is the kid she befriends. And it's really good. The pacing's great. The remake was not good. I didn't care for it either. But mainly because I'm that way, though. I like the originals and stuff. If you change shit afterwards, I do like vampire stories sometimes. But I like them for what they are, which is a talk of both of the cursed part of it. Once you get into like some cool kids club version of it, where anybody can be a vampire and it's no big deal, and I just, it's, I don't know. I mean, eventually, why wouldn't you kill people? Like, it's, it's childish. And the Twilight movies are, I mean, it's a 300-year-old dude hitting on a high school girl. I don't know why it's not Matt Gaetz' favorite film, or Rudy Giuliani's for that matter. But there's a moment in it where you get a glimpse of her true age. Yeah, vampires are predators. Ellie's an abomination. Yeah, she's terrible. And it, and that's the scary part of it, all of it, and that this kid is the kind of kid who might, if he was in American society, might eventually find himself being a school shooter. And she can kind of spot that and use it for her own ends. I don't know. Kale Link, that was the Nicolas Cage movie, Season of the Witch, which was fucking hilariously bad. Season of the Witch, I think that's what it's called. The one where it takes place during the Crusades, kind of, And it basically makes the case that, a lot of them were witches and they did deserve to die. Like, it's the weirdest take ever. But yes, I've seen Dead Snow. I've seen a myriad of them. And that's a zombie film, largely. But anyways, yes, it was very bad. Van Helsing is terrible and silly and whatever. It was a fun stream. It's true. Anyways, this movie takes place in Sweden. It's a Swedish film. It's in Swedish language. Watch it that way. Turn on the subtitles. No one who watches my show should fear subtitles. I feel like you guys are all in the good group. So in this, there's a little scene in it where her helper dude who provides her with support. Where is it? I don't know if they show that guy. Her assistant. He's an older dude. And I mean, it's really only get to see him on the side up in this other picture. It's a dog, like he's running off in the way. He's an old man. But the idea is that, he follows her around and protects her and feeds her and makes sure he goes and kills people, drains the blood and brings it to her so she drinks it. So she doesn't have to get into attack mode. And when she gets into attack mode, that's when they get found out and it fucks everything up and they have to move again and yada yada. And her stomach growls all the time. And if she hasn't eaten, she starts to stink and smell rotten. So she's got to eat all the time. And he's got to go do it for her. So the dude has to do the killing, right? That guy is eating in a restaurant because he's human, and there's 4 Swedes sitting around. Yeah, it's on Hulu right now. I recognize, the Swedish haircut, the little kid with the bangs. Yeah, it's super cute. That there's a scene in it where he's eating by himself, and then these 4 people over there just chatting like local Swedes. And they're like, hey, maybe this guy can come sit with us if he wants to. They're like being nice. And he goes, no, I'm very busy, and I leave. And he goes off or whatever. And before they talk to him, he's Spanish, I think, or something like that. He doesn't say much. Or he's Swedish. The teacher is Spanish, whatever. Anyways, they think he's Russian. They're sitting there the whole time. But when the argument comes up, well, should we invite this guy over to our table? Let the Right One In is the name of it. It's a really subtle aspect of it, but what makes it such a Swedish film in a lot of ways is that they're having this little conversation at this table, and they're like, invite him over. But he looks Russian to me. I don't want to know. And there's Russians all over the place here, blah, blah, blah. And the idea that the Russians had their eyes on Sweden and eventually want it as one of their satellite countries. And that's part of the storyline. That's an element of the storyline. MTG smells like onions. Yes. The new Evo, you started watching the new Scream. I've heard good things. I will watch that. Ramona, I will see if I can find shit before I sign off because I'm already over. Anyways, fascinating thing, but it has a lot to do with the fact that Russia has had set its sights on Sweden for a while, and that Sweden itself has drafted up war plans to join Europe. Thank you, Doyle. To eventually maybe have to fight Russia. So yeah, I'm just looking at the chat right now. I'm catching up with where you guys are. Sometimes I don't need subtitles. It's amusing. Yeah. By the way, one of the best ways if you want to learn a foreign language is to find a movie that that's in your native language, an English language film for most people who are watching, and then that has a translated version where you can turn on translation that has that language, either buy it from that country, like order it off the internet and get a copy of the DVD from that country, get the translated version, and then watch it in English with their subtitles and in their language with English subtitles, and then watch it by itself. And if you rotate that a bunch, because it's a movie you know the lines are, you'll get certain phrases and they'll just kind of click with you. There's a movie called Flashpoint that I love. And when I was trying to get fluidity in my Chinese, I speak very choppy in my Chinese sometimes, and I was like trying to fix that. And I have largely. But there's a line in Flashpoint where Donnie Yen says, "我追的就是警察抓在路," which means I just feel like cops belong on the street. And learning that phrase and what it meant and knowing what it meant and being able to tie those words together, which were a little complicated, made it way easier for me to start tying sentences together. Yeah. Swedish minister said Sweden might join NATO for the Russia thing with Ukraine. Yeah, that's going to happen too. That's their other big fear. Because other countries are like, fuck this. If we don't join NATO, every time we try, like we might as well just do it because they're not going to like it. And every time we get close or start talking, like, look what happened. 2008, they made an offer. Ukraine didn't join because they were still being puppeted by Russia. Now they're not. And there's a fear they might join, which is what this is also about. They've had their first legit election since they split from Russia. They're worried that the same shit will happen in Belarus and Latvia and Lithuania. Yeah. Don't call it Afflicted. Don't read about it. Just watch Afflicted. Okay. Have you, Evo? Thank you. I will. Afflicted. Have you seen Audition or Martyrs, the horror film, or Haute Tension, High Tension, French? That was one of my ways of dusting off my French, which is a weird way to do it. Was watching French horror films. Haute Tension is amazing. It's great. I watched several long Turkish shows with subtitles. There you go. Have I seen Mr. Jones? Mr. Jones and me. Yes, I think so. It's been a while. Oh, at the theater? Okay. I'm sorry if you're having trouble with chats and reactions. Read Live Girls. Okay. Did you ever see Dead Girl? It's a one-person zombie film. It's one of the most disturbing zombie things I've ever seen. Train to Busan is good. It's very good. It's a good zombie tragedy. A lot of zombie movies are tragedies at their base because it's the concept of inevitability, that eventually they get everybody and it's sad. Body Snatchers were similar in the same way. That's the fear. So that's what they play with. Yeah, Dead Girl is fucked up as a movie. Holy God. Yeah, it's perverse, but that's the idea. It's like what's more awful, So it's just no guns on Train to Busan. That's true. Anyway, so I'm glad we got to have a lecture on geography on today's show. I'm very proud of that fact. I'm glad that to review, you guys know that Kazakhstan has been getting in bed with China much to Russia's chagrin for a little bit, and now they're being upended by that very thing, and that China and Kazakhstan share a border that has a couple of 100,000 Uyghurs on this side of the border who aren't too happy about what's happening right about here and over in here and way over in this side, quite frankly, like way up and like where my nose is, essentially. They're also worried that these things, what's going on here, will spread to here, here, and here, and here. And that the failure of the Belt Road Initiative, which I'll probably, there won't be a pop quiz. I just want you guys to have this in your head when shit comes up. When they're talking about this stuff, they're pretending all this isn't happening. Because they don't think the American people or any people, quite frankly, this is not unique. The other thing too is we shit on our press for being kind of one note. It's the same shit everywhere. The only reason, like, a couple of other papers, like The Guardian and The Intercept, dance around at a bunch of different stories and shit on, on the United States while also shitting on their own situation is because they're ultimately anti-democratic. That they want that gone away. They want a kind of authoritarian leftist setup. So they think the faster this thing fails, the better. So everything is bad except even the only thing good is total annihilation, because from the ashes will come something beautiful after they're allowed to take over. There's a bunch of that shit, and there's a lot of that around this area. Next up, we will talk about, eventually, let me see if I can scale this shit up. And then I can't because of the thing. God damn it. The India-Pakistan area right over here. This stuff. This what's going on here? Yeah, the sanctions will fuck Putin up because none of his wealth is in the country. That's the other part. Putin pays his bills and does all of his graft and all that shit with his billions of dollars. None of it's in Russia. And if you can't get it and you can't use the safe channels for money transfer, which is the international banking system, all somebody in one of these countries has to do is intercept. And they don't give a fuck where the money's going. They won't even know. They just steal right out of it. There's no blockchain in any of that shit. We should quietly colonize the area between Ukraine and Kazakhstan. This little bit, yeah. It's not a bad idea. And then hand it over to them, which was British, effectively, over time, what is British imperialism? Hi, we're going to take over this area for a little while. We might treat you like shit for a little while, but we'll build a lot of schools and a lot of roads and that kind of stuff, and eventually we'll fuck off. And then you could sell us tea and opium, but we don't want that anymore. This area right down here is crazy. What's going on in this area as far as what China deals with day to day is insane. That's a whole other conversation. If I start, I won't stop. So I'm going to let you guys go, and I appreciate you guys for joining me. This is Hal Sparks Mornings, Mega Worldwide. 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I get in here, and we have a chit-chat about sort of whatever trends in the interwebs. And I just give you what information I can to kind of, flood the zone with information that you're not necessarily going to get anywhere else. And not because I don't buy into this mainstream media means ill, they're evil, blah, blah, blah. A lot of times it's this balancing act between some political desire to do what they think is right, some political desire to do what they think is good for their bottom line, and some desire to chase the American attention span or the international attention span for that matter, because most of these organizations are multinational at this point as far as the information that goes out all the time. And that juggle will make you suspicious to everyone. It's just a natural part of it. Being all things to all people, even if you mean to do it in a good way, is going to make most people be suspicious of your motives and your capabilities or your even desire to do it. It's like people who are too nice. You're like, what? Why is he? I don't know, man. He's just like, what's he going to sell? Is it something? There's going to be an ask at some point, right? And I will always choose mixed information colliding with logic, and a desire to do what's the best thing right now causes most of our problems. The idea that there's a nefarious, puppet master behind the media or something is just childish and fucking dumb. And apparently thinks you're a fucking moron that can't work it out. Because the person who's telling you the news is all contrived and everybody's in control of it, and the corporations and corporate Dems and establishment Republicans and the rhinos, and they're all, there's a whole, and George Soros and the fucking gray aliens, like, fuck off with this nonsense. The world is really fucking complex. So why are you so nice to me? No, bro. No, there was no homework. Just think about and ponder this stuff. I'll bring it up. I'll remind you guys. But now when these stories come up, you know what's floating around in my dome, why I have the take that I do. As much as this wasn't, me sharing information with you, it's also to sort of explain to you my take on news stories when they come up, right? Because that's crucial. Anyways, love you guys. It's a Midwestern goodbye every goddamn time. Hold on. I should have somebody like CSL at some point. I got to give you like control over my soundboard, and then you can start playing the walk-off music. We'll just start throwing the slow jam in so that people know it's time to go. Hal has a morning show on Saturday and a live stream at the Trump rally tomorrow. Yes, that's true. So tomorrow I have the radio show in the mornings. That's 9 a.m. Same time as this one. And then in the afternoon, I'm going to, whenever Trump is scheduled to speak, it's usually 7 a.m. wherever the fuck he is. I'll take that stream live and comment on it and have our usual fun with it. I have no doubt it will be beautiful and powerful and full of clarity and not a clamoring for the glory days at all. 7 o'clock? Yeah, so, but which, it's East Coast or Central Time? Because that's what changes it for me. So, yeah, CSL's playing this live. That would be so great. Just, we cut to CSL, and he's just like musical accompaniment. That'd be hilarious. Oh, the day that could be possible. CSL, oh my God. What a lovely thing. We're in a studio with a live audience doing this shit for 2 hours. By the way, that's about how long it takes to tape most of the regular, like the Tonight Show and shit like that. They do it as live, but they do a lot of setup and moving around. The audience is there about that much. And I would say that I'm consistently more entertained. This is another Midwest. I gotta go. All right, I will see you guys later on this afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Become a patron if you want. January is a great month to become an annual Patreon subscriber. Patreon.com/HalSparks. This coming from next Friday, from today, Saturday, I will be in San Francisco doing stand-up at Cobb's Comedy Club. Share that around. Let people know. I'm going to post some artwork this weekend so that we can, tweet it out and whatnot. I have no idea what the audience is going to be like because I'm filling in for somebody else last minute. And that's always fun. Somebody else has had 6 months to prep their audience that they're going to be there. And then they're like, 2 weeks, let everybody know. All right, I'll do my best. Anyways, take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. I'll see you this afternoon.
Action replays in magnified fortune. They don't like the gas. Free health care for illegal. Look. Assuming you're believing in atmospheric filth. De-engineering atmospheric filth. When they gaze upon Yosemite, and I was, part of a family that was very well knit. But to me, Corona means Italy. Principles. You're gonna frack. They don't like the gas. Hydrosonic. I call it super duper. For Iowa values. People want other people to stop shooting and knifing people to death. Military institutions and their installations. Computer board. They're not allowed to be offensive, unfortunately. Soup for my family. We're honored to have with us today our amazing Vice President Mike Pence and his wonderful wife Karen. Michigan gave us Motang. Michigan gave us Motang. Michigan gave us Motang. Gave us Motown, gave us the Mustang. Michigan gave us Motang.
A lot of very bad things are happening in Nicaragua.
If you get it in order, you get extra points. Michigan gave us Motang. Wildlife refuges. I mean, you look at this, you look at what we do with our wildlife. Bags of soup.